KXAS-TV, this is Channel 5 Action News.
Good evening. For Garland tonight, the danger is over. At this hour, thousands of people are returning to their homes. They were forced to flee in the middle of the night when a train derailment spewed noxious gas and threatened an explosion. Action News reporter Paula Drew is live at the scene of the accident. Paula, what's happening there now?
Well, Carolyn, the two tanks containing that dangerous chemical styrene monomer that's used for making styrofoam are still here. Two transport trucks that are standing right behind me have been brought in to take that chemical out of here. It will be transferred into the trucks, and that procedure takes about 2 hours. Reportedly, there is a precaution just because of the transfer. Reportedly, there's not that much of a danger, but they are concerned about it. There was rumor that residents would be moved out of the area, but that has not been done at this time, and they have no plans to do that. All residents are now back in their home. Early this morning, about 6,500 residents were moved out, and Action News reporter Bob Letter has that story.
Well, he came to the door, and I had spoke through my bedroom window, and I called my husband to wake up, and he's out of town.
Altogether, more than 5,000 Garland residents were forced from their homes in the early morning hours when liquid styrene monomer leaked from two overturned tank cars on the 9-car derailment. Styrene is used to make plastics. It is slightly toxic, smelling something like model airplane glue, but it's very flammable with a flash point of only 90 degrees Fahrenheit. A wind shift shortly after dawn caused the additional evacuation of hundreds of other nearby residents, including James Hill, a World War II veteran who sported an Army gas mask.
Do you have gas masks for your wife and children?
No, but I'm gonna give this to my wife.
Oh, okay. All right, that's real chivalry.
Large areas of Garland took on the look of a ghost town, and there were at least 4 arrests for looting despite police patrols. Meanwhile, firemen continued to hose down the leaking styrene to keep it cool, creating a chemical river in backyards and neighborhood streets.
The leaking styrene from the overturned gas tanks was bad enough, but it was only a miracle that the tank car carrying the liquefied petroleum gas, which was highly dangerous, was barely touched.
But the overturned styrene cars gave rail workers more than enough problems with continued leaking every time workers attempted to right them. And to avoid the chance of a flash fire, electrical power was shut off, forcing radio station KRLD off the air. The Louisiana and Arkansas train was going to Dallas from Shreveport. Today's accident occurred on a section of track where several minor derailments have occurred within recent months. But officials have not yet pinpointed the cause of this derailment. Bob Letter, Channel 5 Action News, Garland.
And here back at the scene right now, they are moving one of the tank cars. One of the officials of Santa Fe told me that the derailment occurred when a pin that holds the wheel alignment to the train failed. The failure caused a tank car to come off the track and therefore caused a chain reaction. 800 gallons of chemicals were leaked from that train. The tank reportedly holds about 20,000 gallons. 4 people have been treated for skin irritation. Right now, the tracks are being relayed by Santa Fe workers, and at this time, officials of the Santa Fe have not yet given a determined estimated damage. Paula Drew, Channel 5 Action News, live from Garland.
Tonight, tank cars with hazardous materials can be found all over the Metroplex. Highly explosive materials are moved through Dallas-Fort Worth constantly. And Action News reporter Noah Nelson tells us what's being done to safeguard our lives.
The most recent train derailment brings to mind the vulnerability of urban areas to such accidents. In trucking, there are federal guidelines concerning the transportation of dangerous materials through populated areas. And the city of Dallas has its own ordinance addressing that same issue. But rail transportation is a different story. Each day, hundreds of trains cruise through urban areas, many carrying flammable or explosive material. A city can only regulate the speed at which a train can travel through its jurisdiction. And the federal government at this point only regulates how materials can be packaged or handled. Special coupling of cars and placement of dangerous materials within the train itself is where federal intervention begins and ends. The city of Dallas has a plan of action if a large or dangerous derailment were to take place. But beyond that, the city is at the mercy of the railroads.
The only thing we can hope for is that the rails are maintained properly, that our speed limits are adhered to, that we establish for rail, transportation in the city limits, and that we can get quick response from them.
If a train tank car were leaking deadly chlorine gas into a 10-mile-an-hour wind, it would only take that gas 3 minutes to travel 1 mile. The bottom line seems to be that public safety is guarded mostly by a reaction to accidents, more than through strict regulatory control of industry. Noah Nelson, Channel 5 Action News, Dallas.
Strong winds and a lot of smoke gave Dallas firefighters some serious problems this afternoon. They were trying to put out a fire at the General Battery Company on Bengal near Parkland Hospital. Officials think the flames first broke out in the grass near some storage buildings, but the fire worked its way into a couple of buildings near the back of the plant. There were caps and grids for car and truck batteries in the buildings, and they let off various gases. None of the gases was dangerous, but firefighters had to back off from time to time just to get some fresh air. A videotape rip-off scheme Action News uncovered last night is now being investigated by the FBI. We'll talk to some people who lost a lot of money next on Channel 5 Action News. No tapes, no money. Victims of a video movie sting are fighting back tonight. Action News consumer reporter Mike Snyder uncovered the con job by Wide World Video. They were hiding the cost of recorders in a movie rental plan. Now, Mike tells us some of the stung customers are stopping payments.
I don't feel like that we should pay for something that is not right. I mean, that's false advertisement.
Mrs. Musel is one in a long list of people who answered this ad thinking they could get a free videotape recorder for signing up to rent 150 movies.
The ad says you get, the way they tell us, you get the video free if you rent this 150 film.
But yes. That's not the way it is.
No, evidently not, because we're still paying for the video and not getting any film with it.
Since our first story, dozens of victims have called the Dallas Better Business Bureau, complaining they too have been ripped off by Wide World Video, paying for what they thought was a movie rental plan and finding out they instead have bought a videotape recorder. Many of those customers are now stopping payments to the finance companies until they get their movies. And there now could be a new complication. There are some indications that some of the tapes being peddled around in the Wide World Video rent-a-movie plan could be counterfeit, pirated tapes, illegally copied.
They were not packaged and marked as tapes would be that are from the distributor, and also because of the faulty quality of the tapes. It appeared to be a very poor reproduction of the tape.
Barry says the BBB and the FBI are checking into whether or not the California Movie Company is peddling illegal tapes. In the meantime, the Wide World Video store on Redbird Lane is still open, and owner Carolyn Mills insists she is not part of that rip-off operation in Mesquite. All the same, her store could become part of the investigation because she is still offering the rental movies from the California company, which are suspect of being illegal. Mike Snyder, Channel 5 Action News, Dallas.
Work on a cable TV system in Watauga, north of Fort Worth, has come to a grinding halt. And it looks as though Watauga residents are going to have to rely on their TV antennas while city officials make up their minds about what to do. The people here in Watauga were supposed to get cable next November. City Council voted last fall to award a cable franchise to Salmons Communications Company. Salmons put up a performance bond and started planning and surveying the project right away. But since last fall, things have changed. Watauga lost its mayor, city attorney, and city secretary, and a new city council's been elected. Now, that new council says the deal with Salmons was never closed. The city was supposed to deliver a certificate of franchise to Salmons, but that certificate was never filled out, and the city has ordered Salmons to stop work.
We're not failing to perform as required, and in fact, we had a security deposit up and a performance bond, and we were ready to perform on time. But of course, we're in a hold pattern.
City officials won't say whether they plan to reopen bids on the project or what they want to do. In fact, they won't say much at all.
Since the City Council has not taken final action on this matter, it would be inappropriate for me to answer questions at this time.
That doesn't explain why the city never delivered the certificate of franchise or what will happen to the money Salmons has already invested in Watauga. City Council hasn't finished hearings on the whole mess, and for now at least, Salmons is being philosophical about the situation.
But the council apparently had its mind made up, so, you know, it's kind of hard to argue with City Hall.
Whether the Watauga residents who won't have cable TV next fall will be equally philosophical remains to be seen. Neither one of the Democratic candidates for Dallas County Sheriff is taking a sit-back-and-wait approach tonight. They've been fighting tooth and nail throughout the campaign. And Channel 5's Noah Nelson tells us it'll all come to a head tomorrow with the runoff election.
The runoff campaign between candidates Bob Collins and Al Maddox has been chock full of accusations and name-calling. The two candidates have brought that kind of fighting right down to the wire. One of the first things Bob Collins read in the newspaper this morning was an ad placed by his opponent in which Maddox accused Collins of violating state law by not placing political disclaimers on his posters. Collins was furious.
I think it says that he's a man of character that tries to mislead people, tries to mold their opinion through lies or near lies or something like that. And this is one of the things that separated the two of us from the very beginning.
Al Maddox, on the other hand, believes he has exposed Collins to the people, and he calls him a crook without integrity.
He says that he doesn't know about the law on the disclaimers. It should be a disclaimer on all of his printed material, which is campaign material. And here it is. Nope, proof. You can see it for yourself.
Yeah.
It says that the man doesn't know the law, and he's running for the #1 law enforcement place in the county.
Maddox says this should be the final blow to his opponent's campaign, and he says he has documented evidence of other campaign violations by Collins. What is clear is that both candidates have done a good job at attacking each other's credibility. And if the public has witnessed anything, is that neither man is afraid to say what he thinks. Noah Nelson, Channel 5 Action News, Dallas.
Good weather could mean a good turnout for this weekend's primary. Harold will give us his forecast next on Channel 5 Action News. So what's the word, Harold? Are we going to have any thunderstorms to keep people home from the polls
Oh,
tomorrow?
I don't think so. No, not in this area. Certainly not. But hot, yes. And fortunately, you know, sometimes the weather can work for you, too, as well as against you. It's a good thing the winds were strong and the temperatures were hot today because of that Garland incident, Carolyn, because you know, it keeps everything going up instead of going out, and as it goes up, then blowing it on away from the side of the accident. Well, let's take a look at the satellite picture, because there are a couple things on here that I think are worth looking at with the weekend weather coming up. This is the picture taken about an hour ago, and it's a visual presentation, and the jet stream shows up pretty well, coming up across Kansas, down through Missouri, and then you can't pick up much of it, but the circulation does come on around and around into the Gulf, and then clouding us on back into the mountains of Mexico. And then, of course, down here in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, you can see a lot of the buildup from the thunderstorm activity there. Now, there's a norther pushing down from the north, and it's a pretty good one. As a matter of fact, temperatures right now are in the 40s up in across Montana, and they're in the 50s across North Dakota, in the 60s down here in South Dakota, and there are thunderstorms building up here in the Black Hills. Then we get on down south, down into Nebraska, temperatures are in the 70s through this zone. Look at this big thunderstorm up here in Iowa. And then in the 90s, on down into Oklahoma, and of course on down into Texas, except out here in the west, they're much stronger. Now this was what we saw an hour ago. Let's look at the one taken about 30 minutes ago. You can see that these are very high clouds, and the temperatures are very cold. These are the ice crystal clouds. They're moving on up across Oklahoma. Now, I think this is significant because the front will push on down and become more or less parallel to this high-level jet stream. And it'll actually push on down a little bit further. At nighttime, as things cool off, it may push clear on down into the Red River. I doubt seriously it'll come much further south than that. And you can see now where some clouds are beginning to form out in the usual area from Childress down to near Midland and on down into the Big Bend, and those temperatures are hot down there. Look at the temperatures. I plotted them. Now, these came in at 6 o'clock this evening, and they're the current readings and may not be the highs for the day. 108 at Wink. Midland was missing this hour, but last hour they were 104. It's 103 degrees at El Paso, 106, 105, 100, Amarillo 101, Lubbock 104. So you can see the temperature difference there, and this is the very dry air coming down out of the mountains against the moist air coming up from the Gulf. And you see it's right down along that line that on the satellite picture we could see a few little scattered thunderstorms developing. Well, there's some down in the mountains of Mexico, 95, 94 degrees locally, and if you're going down on the Gulf Coast, the seas are 3 to 5 feet, then we'll be picking up 4 to 6 feet over the weekend. Now, let's take a look at the national map. This is the cold air that's pushing down, and the National Weather Service within the hour has put out a tornado watch from Chadron, Nebraska, over to 70 miles east of Ainsworth. Covers much of the state there. There's already one out here in Iowa, And, of course, we could see this big one up here just to the west of Dubuque. We could see that thunderstorm on the satellite photographs a few moments ago. This type of big high-pressure area over the Atlantic and over the Gulf of Mexico keeps feeding low-level moisture in, but it also makes it very difficult for fronts to move south at this time of the year. Very, very difficult to do so. This one may push on down, but that 100-plus weather eats them up pretty fast, and cold fronts just won't persist. Look at the wind flow in the upper levels. See, we looked at the jet stream pattern that we could see on the satellite picture. Now you see here are the actual wind reports, and as that front pushes on down, it'll become parallel to the winds and lose a lot of its push. Tomorrow, I think it'll look like this. We'll expect to see colder temperatures, of course, up here in the north, and they'll be in the 40s, the 50s, and the 70s on down into Kansas, the 80s, northern Oklahoma, 90s plus south of that line, and the warm weather will begin to move up into the eastern section of the country. But here we are right here, and a lot of times, you've seen it as well as I have, when these fronts push on down to the Red River, this time of the year, we can get some awfully hot temperatures just in advance of that right here in our own area. So we're going to look for a hot weekend coming up. Outside, well, just a few scattered clouds. The winds are out of the south-southeast, and they're blowing with a speed now occasionally 20 miles an hour, sometimes gusty to 25. The barometer holding at 29.86 will be on the rise later tonight, falling again tomorrow afternoon. The air is still fairly humid for such high temperatures. 42% is the humidity, and the temperature, we read 93 degrees on our thermometer, and that's about as high as we have seen today. No precipitation, of course. 97 was the high at the airport, a little bit warmer than our thermometer read, and that's quite a bit above normal for this time of the year. Partly cloudy, unseasonably warm, a little windy, temperatures into the upper 90s, and the winds out of the south in 10 to 20 miles an hour. And Carolyn, I just hated to do it. We ran out of zeros, but really should have put near 100 on there for tomorrow.
Well, you know, Harold, I think the most interesting weather in our area today was the dust cloud that hit the newsroom when the remodeler...
I didn't have anything to do with that.
Thank you. Well, it looks like another clear night for the Rangers over in Arlington, and Jim Brinson will have a preview of tonight's game with Kansas City next on Channel 5 Action News. So, Jim,
yes.
What happened to the Rangers last night?
Well, you know how it is. It's
down
yes,
the tube.
if you were at the game, one of the best parts was a guy running around the diamond that we showed earlier on the 5 o'clock show. We won't show that again this evening, however, on the 6 o'clock. Game 2, tonight of the 4-game series between the Rangers and Royals, and John Matlack will attempt to turn things around for the ailing Rangers. He'll start on the mound tonight for Texas. Paul Splithorpe will start on the mound for Kansas City. Now, last night, it was Jim Kern getting his first start in many moons, and it turned out to be a very disruptive thing for the Rangers. Here, Frank White unloads with a 3-run homer, and just like that, Kansas City was out in front and out in front to stay. Then Kern delivers a fastball down the pipe. Amos Otis, who has good power to all fields, unloads, this time to right center over the 370 sign, and it's 4-0. And then another run will be driven in here with Willie Wilson at the bat. He'll shoot one down the left field line, and George Brett will come all the way around to score on this double as Al Oliver runs it down to the outfield. That made it 5-0, but the final last night was 8-0 in favor of Kansas City. Here was the highlight of the game for the Rangers and the fans. Go over there and take care of that third base bag. There you go. In the meantime, French tennis championships. Bjorn Borg eliminated Harold Solomon in straight sets to move into the final against Vitas Gerulaitis. Gerulaitis upset Jimmy Connors this afternoon. Fort Worth could be on its way to becoming the amateur sports capital of the United States. Now, tonight, Action News reporter Ed Martell tells us Fort Worth will host the Amateur Fencing Championships next year.
June 1981 will see action like this at Texas Christian University. The Amateur Fencing League of America will hold the National Amateur Championships here in Fort Worth. As Tom Bickley explains it, Fort Worth was an obvious choice.
They've been after us for years to hold it in the middle of the country. And TCU has what is probably the best place in the world to hold a fencing meet. Between their Daniel Myers Coliseum and the adjacent gyms, which are just beautiful for this purpose. And then we've got the Berry Street, which is very close facilities for restaurants and fast food and this kind of thing. And this combination just doesn't exist, so far as I know, anywhere else in the world.
Something that will make the tournament more exciting to watch is a rule change that will make the tourney a direct elimination. The last match of the day will be for the championship, and more people may be able to see it. Organizers for the meet are talking to the television networks. They tell us NBC has the edge right now. Ed Martell, Channel 5 Action News, Fort Worth.
Who was that man behind the mask? It was Ed. Yes, he got an opportunity to do a little fencing. Right now, you are looking at the first member of the new Dallas Mavericks of the NBA, 6'10" center Tom Lagarde. He was in Dallas today. Lagarde was a surprise in the dispersal draft, and the Mavericks were very pleased to get the former North Carolina star. This morning, I talked with Lagarde and asked him if he believes he's the franchise for the first year or so of the expansion team.
I don't know. I think I can play at a high level. I don't think that you can depend on one man. I don't think that'll be the case. I think basketball is a team game, but I do feel that I will contribute heavily, and I'm going to play as hard as I can and let the cards fall where they will. I just want to play, and I think this is a great opportunity. I've talked to Norm Sanju and other people in the organization. They're very positive, very enthusiastic, and some of the guys they selected are young and hungry and I think unproven, and they want to come in and get a chance to play just as I do. And I think there's some unproven talent that may surprise people.
And Tommy Lagarde in town. A quick note also, the next day or so, Ralph Drollinger, the former UCLA center who played a couple of years for Athletes in Action, is scheduled to make an announcement on which team he will play for in the upcoming NBA season. It is boiled down to Dallas or the Los Angeles Lakers. So Drollinger has the opportunity of sitting the bench and playing behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or coming here and splitting playing time with Tom Lagarde. But I would have to say that this time Lagarde would be the obvious choice to be the starter at this time.
But we can still hope.
Oh, yes, always. I think, a lot of people are kind of down on the club because they think that expansion team, they'll be lucky to win 10 games. I'm perfectly honest with you, with the talent that they have right now, which does not include the upcoming NBA draft on Tuesday, I think they'll be surprised. I think they might see this team win 20, maybe 25 games.
Good.
Okay?
Good. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
We'll have an update on that bus accident in Arkansas. That's coming up next on Channel 5 Action News.
For 12 long hours, you work on a silver sea until the sun starts to drop and you head for Miller time.
When it's time to relax.
Time for the best tasting beer you can find.
One beer stands clear.
America's quality beer, Miller High Life.
If you've got the time, we've got the beer.
Thousands of Walmart customers have proven it for themselves. Prove it to yourself that Walmart offers you the lowest discount prices every day. This 9-ounce can of WD-40 was $1.38 last year. This year, it's only $1.28 every day. And this box of 20 heavy-duty trash bags was $1.58 last year, and now is only $1.54 every day. The pennies add up and the dollars add up to big savings every day. Walmart, for the lowest discount prices every day.
A 5-man team from the National Transportation Safety Board is already in Arkansas investigating yesterday's bus crash that killed 20 Metroplex residents. They plan to look for signs of mechanical error, human error, and environmental factors that might have contributed to the tragedy. A spokesman says the investigators are especially interested in the bus's brakes, steering, and lights. That's tonight's edition of Action News. For Harold, Jim, and the entire Action News team, I'm Carolyn Razor. Thank you for joining us, and have a good weekend.